witnessed Americans dying. I saw them crying and holding each other, even though I don't know their language. When one was killed, the others stuck together. They carried away the body and they wept. I witnessed such scenes and thought, Americans, like us Vietnamese, have a profound sense of humanity. They cared about each other. These words were spoken by Lê Cong Huan, a Viet Cong guerrilla. When I first heard them, they made me think a lot. Maybe my enemies aren't monsters. Maybe they're human beings just like you and me. In March of 2010, I returned home on R&R leave from combat operations in Iraq. I walked up to the front door of my childhood home and was greeted by my loving mother. "Oh, your eyes have changed," she said, as she hugged me and held my face. Those words broke my heart because I knew it was true. My mother's little boy was gone, cold and hardened by a few months at war. I was now staring into her eyes as a warrior, not fully man, not fully human, a significant part savage and violent now. Do you remember the last moment you felt like a child? I do. It was January 9th, 2010. Memory's a fascinating thing. This day swirls in my mind like something out of the beginning scenes of The Wizard of Oz, only I'm Dorothy, I'm carrying a rifle, wearing body armor, and filled with nervous anxiety. My squad walks towards the Hawija Girls' School across a small dirt lot. We're greeted at the main gate by the principal and a few local elders invested in a different, educated future for their daughters. A girls' school is not a particularly popular idea with the local insurgent group. I stand on the upper floor of the girls' school staring into a classroom full of elementary-age girls. Some are giggling and waving at me. My lieutenant's getting a tour of the place from the principal. A fellow rifleman, Mike, stands at the edge of the building. The radio clipped into my helmet crackles to life. Steel 1 Romeo, Steel 4. Let LT know the streets are clearing down here. Prepare for contact. Boom! The blast is shocking. My shoulders touch my ears. We sprint past classroom after classroom of screaming, terrified little girls. That sound seeks me out and finds me in my nightmares. We run towards our trucks. Machine guns roar in the distance. Bullets ping off the armor and buildings around us. I see my best friend Clark laid out in the street. He's not moving. I'm terrified. Please, God, don't let Clark die. Please let him be okay. We head into the neighborhoods to our east with a description of the enemy and our Iraqi interpreter in tow. My squad leader yells at me to take a building. I move quickly to the front door and I kick it off its hinges. All I see in front of me is a pitch black doorway. I charge into the void and I'm shocked by the scene inside. An Iraqi woman stands there, unveiled. 4 small children huddle in the corner. As they see me, they all begin to scream. I had been expecting the enemy. Reality was much worse. A grandmother trying desperately to defend her babies from the war outside her door. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, I say. My inner child can feel how wrong this all is. We turn a corner. We're 10 yards from 2 men matching the description of the enemy. Get on the ground, we scream. As we close the distance, I kick the short one in the chest. He folds. I bury my knee into his solar plexus. The tall one is a few feet in front of me. He hits the pavement. I struggle to control the thrashing man below me. I hit him with my rifle. I pin him to the pavement. I point my rifle with one hand at his partner and scream. My left hand finds this man's throat. As I squeeze, sickening, gurgling sounds come out. His partner reaches frantically into his jacket for something. Mike, help me, I scream. A terrified child choking a terrified man. Mike's boot smashes into the tall one's face. He stops trying to reach the grenade in his jacket. Mike puts the muzzle of his rifle into this man's mouth and shouts to our interpreter, Calvin, you tell this motherfucker if he moves again, I'm gonna paint this wall with his brains. Calvin mutters something in Arabic, and this man clearly gets the message. The brutality of war up close and personal, and I'm taking full part in it. The innocent child inside of me dies right there in the middle of that street. All that's left is a warrior, a savage. I no longer see these men as human. They're the enemy, Haji. With the dehumanization of the enemy complete, the dehumanization of the self begins. We turn these men over to the Iraqi police. Days later, I ask a police officer, what happened to those dudes we captured? He pulls his pistol, points it as if aiming at the back of a kneeling man's head. Pop, pop, Alibaba, bye-bye, he says. I feel nothing. No anger, no shame, no outrage over this miscarriage of justice, no pain over the loss of 2 young lives, nothing. They tried to kill my buddies. They tried to kill me. They aren't even people. They're just 2 Hajis. It's just war. You can do anything to someone you don't see as human. You can torture, you can maim, you can kill, you can burn their village and destroy their crops. That's why since the beginning of time we've made them the other. We call them redcoats, rebels, Indians, Huns, Japs, Jerrys, Zips, or Haji. We consciously decide not to acknowledge their humanity, and in doing so, unconsciously devalue our own lives. This is why veterans return home and wonder if we're actually the monsters now. What would my wife think of me if she knew what we did over there? So we lie to ourselves. We tell the innocent child inside, they aren't like us, they're evil. But inside we're suffering. For a dozen years, I suffered with what most would call PTSD. I prefer the term moral injury or a wounded soul. I would drink to numb the pain. I'd smoke cannabis to alleviate the anxiety. I walked around either angry or full of despair. I sought counseling. For 6 years it helped. Until I watched my nation abandon Afghanistan, a country I had fought for, a country I had watched men die for, and there was nothing I could do about it. My daughter was born a few weeks before the fall. I spiraled into a shell of myself. I had constant nightmares about her being taken from her crib. I was totally disconnected from my wife. I knew I had to find healing, and I didn't have years to do it. I made a life-changing decision and sought out psychedelic healing. In February of 2022, I participated in my first psychedelic journey. In this journey, I revisit my days at war. Only this time, I see them through the lens of love and acceptance. No judgment, no anger, no hatred, just love and acceptance. For a 23-year-old kid doing the best he could in the midst of extreme circumstances, I see his fear and his bravery. I see him acting out of pure love for his brothers. Someone asks me if, during this journey, I finally forgave myself. I tell them no. I realized there was nothing to forgive. This is the deepest compassion I could find for myself and for everyone who shared in the war with me. We're all just doing our best in the midst of our circumstances. 2 years and multiple psychedelic journeys later have opened my eyes to a beautiful awareness about the world. You are just me, living a different life. We're all God, the universe, collective consciousness, whatever you choose to call it, experiencing itself. We're all connected through oneness. In dehumanizing the enemy, I dehumanized myself. I made my life, my inherent value, worthless in my own mind. And that is the most painful and yet beautiful realization of them all. What I do to them, I do to myself. How I treat those faces across from me in the world is how I treat myself. When you begin to see yourself in every human being, you find that compassion arises far more quickly than judgment. Isn't that what we all desire deep down? To know that we are loved and accepted? Here today I find myself at peace, speaking to you about what it's like to feel the wounds of war healed through medicines our government bans. Pain can still arise in me, but I take a deep breath and I return to love and acceptance. I no longer hide my pain from my wife. She gets to see all of me now. My daughter is no longer growing up with an angry father. She gets a playful dad who loves tickle kiss parties. I get to look out in the world with childlike, innocent eyes and show my mother that her little boy's not dead. He was simply hiding behind a stoic mask to face the terror he had seen and taken part in. I have plenty of lessons left to learn in this life. The one I find the most challenging is the one I'm the most drawn to. I desire to see my enemies through the same eyes with which Lê Công Huan saw my brothers that day as they mourned our dead in Vietnam. Compassionate eyes that acknowledge the humanity in us all. I know that those men that I captured on that day were just me in a different place, living a different life. Thank you.